Kuchisake-Onna, Japan. Kuchisake-Onna appears at night on quiet sidewalks, usually approaching someone who is walking alone. She wears a long coat and a medical mask over her face. At first, she looks like any other passerby. She steps close and asks a simple question: "Am I beautiful?" If the person answers yes, she removes the mask. Her mouth is split open from ear to ear, the edges pulled wide, exposing teeth and torn flesh. She asks the question again. Responses do not change the outcome. The encounter is a trap disguised as conversation. In many versions, the wrong answer leads to death either way. If you say yes, she cuts your mouth to match hers. If you say no, she kills you immediately. But some stories describe neutral replies as the only way to escape. One survival method is responding with something like, "You look average," or "I have somewhere to be." This is said to confuse her long enough to walk away. Another version says throwing candy or money distracts her as she stops to pick it up instead of attacking. Some variations say she moves with sudden speed. Others say she appears fixed in place like a mannequin until the victim speaks.
La Llorona, Mexico.
La Llorona is described as a woman wandering near riversides at night, wearing a white dress, crying for children she no longer has. The cry is said to sound distant at first, then suddenly close, as if the source has moved without footsteps. Her face may be hidden by her hair or appear pale and hollowed from grief. In many versions, she drowned her children during a moment of anguish and immediately regretted it, causing her spirit to remain attached to the river. Encounters with her are not always violent. Sometimes she is simply seen standing near the water. Other times she may lead someone closer to the shoreline without a word. Some stories mention ways to avoid being taken: staying away from rivers at night, prayers or calling someone's name to break the moment.
Your name?
Carrying charcoal or obsidian for protection.
The story spread through oral tradition as a caution against children wandering near dangerous rivers at night, making it a practical story as well as a supernatural one. Later, plays, street performances, and films made her recognizable nationwide.
Manananggal, Philippines. The Manananggal appears human by day. At night, her upper body separates from her lower half, growing wings and lifting into the air. Her intestines and exposed organs hang loosely as she flies. She seeks sleeping victims, particularly those vulnerable in bed or recovering from illness. Her tongue can stretch long and thin to reach into windows or cracks. There's a specific survival method tied to how she splits. Because her lower half remains somewhere hidden and motionless, the key is finding it. If you cover the exposed waist of the lower body with salt, ash, garlic, or vinegar, the upper half cannot reattach. If dawn arrives before she returns to her body, she dies. Local radio dramas and horror films later reinforced the creature's design, giving it lasting cultural visibility.
Krasue, Thailand.
At night, the Krasue appears as a floating head with its internal organs trailing beneath it, a faint light glowing from within the organs, making her visible even in near darkness. The organs move gently as she drifts, as if suspended in water rather than air. She moves silently through villages looking for blood, meat, or animals left outdoors. During the day, she lives as a normal woman, showing no visible difference from anyone else. Because her identity is unknown, suspicion and secrecy surround anyone who is reclusive or active at night. People traditionally brought livestock into fenced enclosures or stables before sleeping, and covered or stored any raw meat and cooking materials. Thorny branches or fences with pointed stakes were placed around homes because her trailing organs were believed to snag on sharp surfaces. The image of the Krasue is extremely distinct. No limbs, no body, only a head and organs moving independently. From there, the image began appearing in stories, gossip, and eventually popular entertainment. Thai television and film repeatedly used the Krasue in horror movies, making the silhouette widely recognized.
The Wendigo, Canada.
The Wendigo is described as a gaunt, skeletal figure with stretched skin, hollowed eyes, and a mouth that seems too wide for the face. In some versions, the creature has antlers or a deer-like skull, while in others it is a twisted human form, long-limbed, starving, and constantly moving. The core idea is tied to cannibalism during harsh winters. If a person resorted to eating human flesh to survive, their spirit was said to become corrupted, turning them into a Wendigo. No matter how much it eats, the creature is never full. It is hunger in physical form. If someone begins to speak obsessively about hunger, withdraws from the group, or stares into the forest as if listening to something, they must not be left alone. They must be restrained, warmed, and kept with others. If they run into the woods, the response is silence. Do not follow, do not call out. Do not answer if they call back. Footsteps in snow where no tracks exist or voices calling your name from the trees are common elements in reported encounters. The legend traveled long before Western media adopted it, later becoming one of the most recognized figures in North American folklore. Kichkandi, Nepal. Kichkandi are said to be the spirits of women who died far from home or without proper burial. They appear along mountain paths and quiet forest roads. At first glance, they look like an ordinary woman sitting or standing, but small details reveal the truth. Feet that do not touch the ground, rigid posture, or eyes that do not blink. They follow travelers at a fixed distance. Never closer, never farther. The survival rule is to keep walking at the same pace and move toward lights or settlements. Do not call out. Do not speed up. Do not turn around. If someone reacts, the Kichkandi is said to appear right beside them, leading to disorientation, collapse, or stepping off the safe path into dangerous terrain. The story developed in regions where long, isolated travel between villages was a normal part of life. Jangsanbum, Korea. Jangsanbum is described as a tall, white-furred creature that moves on all fours. Its fur is long and matted, blending into mist or fog in forested areas. From a distance, it may look like a dog or a person crouching low, but its movements are smooth and deliberate, almost silent. Its most distinct feature is the voice. The Jangsanbum can mimic human speech, often sounding like a cry for help or a familiar voice calling your name from the trees. The voice usually comes from where visibility is low, fog, valleys, or dense pine forest. Sightings describe people hearing someone call out softly, believing it is a friend or a lost hiker. When they move toward the sound, the voice shifts location, always keeping the listener slightly disoriented and walking deeper into the woods. The survival rule is simple. If you hear your name in the forest, do not answer. Do not acknowledge the voice at all. Walk away. Reports place Jangsanbum near mountainous walking trails and forest edges. Videos, alleged recordings, and eyewitness accounts circulate online, keeping the story active. Korean media and short horror videos revived and amplified the legend, making it widely recognized. Bus 975, Singapore. The story centers on the last service of Bus 975, which runs along Lim Chu Kang Road, a long, isolated route bordered by military camps, forest, and one of the largest cemetery zones in Singapore. At night, the road is almost completely dark, with no pedestrians and very few cars. Drivers say that on the final trip, the bus must stop at every bus stop, even if there are no visible passengers. The belief is that not everyone riding is alive. There are reports of the bell ringing when no one is standing or seated. Sometimes the doors open on their own. Sometimes the reflection in the mirror shows more passengers than the bus actually has, and sometimes, on the roadside, a figure appears to be waiting, only to vanish as the bus approaches. The rule is not to avoid the spirits. The rule is to treat them as normal passengers. You stop the bus, open the door, wait, close the door, continue the journey. Because if the driver fails to stop for a spirit, it is said the spirit will follow him home. Alright folks, thanks for watching. Before you go, tell me where you're from and what stories you want to see next.